Hey guys, so we're back. It's the next day after we've removed all of our intake manifold and everything else on the intake side. The only thing that I've done so far, I extracted the two shorter intake manifold studs. If you're not familiar with how to do that, it's really simple. Basically, you're just going to take two nuts, run one backwards onto the stud, run the other one normal, and put your wrench here and your deep well socket here. Tighten them together, and then all you have to do is loosen it. This one over here fought me just a little bit. I'm not sure why. That one over there came out pretty simple. And I wanted to troubleshoot everything today just to make sure that when I put everything together, it went as smooth as possible. Thankfully, I did that. We had to do a little bit of dremeling. I'll probably cut to what I'm talking about here on this Tooter intake manifold runner extender. So you can see we had to do a little bit of dremeling on there, but now when we pop it on, if I can do it one-handed, slides right on there like it's supposed to. Before, we were having it touch right over here against the VVTi solenoid, so that's where we actually had to dremel it. But like I said, nobody's going to see that spot. It's literally covered up by the fuel rail anyway, so that's good to go on. I did put this on, and I attempted to put our old intake manifold back on just to see for clearance, because our coolant jug's right here, and it's going to be tight, but I'm pretty sure that everything will clear just fine. The only other thing that I've noticed is before we put our intake manifold on, we may have to put our dipstick nut back in, because I don't know that there's going to be enough room there to be able to get my hand up onto the manifold. So here's our intake manifold that's been ported. As you've seen in the last video, we did extensive work right up around here. We opened this up substantially. I'll place the other one right next to it so you can get a good idea of how much it's been opened up. This is our old one. When you pop the gasket out, see if I can get a good shot on that for you guys. Oh, that's pretty good. So we've opened that up substantially. That's our OEM stock one. This is our ported OEM manifold. But we should be able to hopefully get a little bit more power out of it. I've built the gasket as I showed before in the last video. And yeah, it's going to kind of be interesting to see how this works. But let's get to it. See how she fits. The hardest part that I'm running into right now is this filler neck here, and then also our hood latch, which we may end up taking off for the time being to see if we can. It is only two 10mm bolts, it looks like. Leave that hang over there for just a little bit. See if we can get this manifold mounted now. Wow, this is really tight now. Like extremely tight. I think that broke, but we'll find out, I suppose. Okay. Alright. I think at this point I'm going to go ahead and try and bolt up my dipstick tube to where it'll be poked out further, because once I get this put on, it's probably going to be a pain in the butt to get back off. So at least at this point I've got enough room to get my dipstick put on. And all I've got is this, I've got a longer bolt and like a little brass spacer. Got our swivel. Use that. Tighten this guy up a little bit. It's mounted on there good. I'm not going to go anywhere. Okay. Good there. Pull that down. Try not to damage. Oh yeah, that's important. We might want to replace this other gasket before we put it on. That would really... This is the part code for Felpro MS96510. And this one's gray for some reason. I don't know why. Who cares? Let's see here. I'm going to wipe this out before we do that. Alright, our gasket looks all set in there very well. Alright, cool. So that little spacer actually worked pretty well, so we can still check our oil, because if we didn't, it would be up too close to there. Because again, this is out. I guess that's probably a 2 to 2.5 inch spacer on the runner. So we may have to extend some of our hoses. Alright, cool. Well, that's on. That's good. I guess let's grab our throttle body. We'll try to get it mounted up. And actually, you know what? Before we do that, we will do our loop. So I'll probably put our... I might leave that off for the time being and then put that together in a minute. But we can do our loop. I'll bring you over here. All right, so what I found was I had an extra piece of metal brake line laying around that ended up trimming down and just kind of deburring the ends. When we trimmed it, I went ahead and hit it with some part clean. That way, we actually were using this as like a transmission fluid line loop. I just had some extra on the big loop. So this should work out perfect for what we're needing. Basically, this is our one coolant line. This is our other one. We're just gonna pop them together, take these two nuts out of them, obviously. Put this line in, put you a clamp on both ends, and we shouldn't have any issues. We've got every mechanic's best friend right here, the old-fashioned zip tie. There we go. Alright guys, so we're going to be starting to install our throttle body now, which is pretty exciting. This stuff here is Permatex high-tack gasket sealant. They used to sell this in a spray can, and that is what I'm going to end up putting on our throttle body gasket to ensure a good seal. Since we're kind of making our own gasket, and since this is just a paper gasket, this stuff is tacky, it never hardens, and that way, if we have an issue, This is the gasket we've used for a while, so kind of our template one. We're going to put a little bit of Permatex on both sides of this. It's red, so when you see me slide it on, it'll probably end up being red. Alright, so our gasket is on there. Next, we'll go ahead and grab our throttle body and see if we can set it on it properly. And we will have to figure out what to do on, I believe, 2 of these vacuum lines. I'll have to do a little bit of checking online and see what we do, if we just cap them off or what. These other ones here are just going to be open to nothing. This is a 2AZ throttle body off of a 2006-2007 Scion TC. I got this off eBay, and this is pretty much our test dummy. If the car doesn't start after this, I'm not super concerned, just because there is a shot that I may have screwed this up, but that's okay. We can always grab another one. They're pretty cheap. So I've probably talked about this in the porting video, but we went ahead and drilled out the 6 pop rivets that hold this plastic cover on. There is supposed to be an adjustment screw right here, but the issue is Toyota covers that up from factory with a small piece of yellow epoxy. We tried chipping that off, and basically I got to the bolt head. It's a little Allen bolt, but it would not turn and ended up rounding itself out. We tried drilling it, and it just was a headache. So what we did, we took all this off and drilled a little bit on the actual bolt where it goes through on the inside to shorten it to where we should get our idle down to a, something acceptable, hopefully somewhere around 800 to 1,000, maybe 1,200 at most. But if not, it's not a big deal. Like I said, we can grab another one of these. Seems to have sat on there pretty well. Put on our hose bracket, and yeah, we're only going to be able to run one of these bolts that hold this bridge on, but that's okay. So now our throttle body's on. We're getting places. That's good. Next, I guess we're going to grab our AEM cold air intake. Okay, so I've got all of our AEM cold air intake unboxed. These guys are not a sponsor, but if you need one of these, I'm not sure if they're still in production or not. I might have got one of the last ones that they had on Amazon. I'm not sure. I've had this for about probably 2 years now. Just been slowly putting the parts together to build this. That is your AEM part number. I'm sure if you contact them, they may have some, maybe have some in dead stock or something like that, but the part number is 21-513, and that is specifically for 07 to 12 Toyota Yaris's. So I haven't looked at the instructions just yet, but we've got this nice-ish. Not a big fan of chrome plating, but looks okay. We've got this intake pipe, comes with a filter. They give you a couple stickers. They give you license plate frame, which is kind of cool. It comes with a silicone coupler and some fan clamps, some different bolt extension types of things, and some zip ties. And yeah, so let's see what we got. I don't think this coupler will work. I just tried it over here, and we may be able to stretch it out, but I doubt it. It's going to be tight. So we've got all the parts out. We can go ahead and put this intake in. Alright guys, so we're going to take this piece here. It's called they call it an M8 rubber mount, and we are going to put that on our forwardmost. This is when I removed that mounting bracket for the airbox. These are the 2 holes. I went ahead and put fluid film on both of them just to ensure going forward, if I ever need to remove this, it won't fight me too bad. So they're wanting me to put it on the forwardmost airbox mounting bracket hole. So we'll go ahead and thread that on like that. Next, it's wanting me to put on this coupler onto this throttle body. I don't think I'm going to be able to. I'm going to try to maybe stretch it out a little bit, but I don't think it'll fit. Take some PV blaster to it and see if we can stretch it out. All right, that is on. We're going to leave that on now. Good to know that you can stretch that. And now we can proceed. So next, it's wanting me to put on 2 hose clamps. It said to loosely put them on. All right, next, it's wanting us to install our MAF sensor off of our OEM airbox. So this is our MAF sensor right on here on top of the old airbox. I went ahead and I had hit this with penetrating oil yesterday or the day before, I guess, to make sure these screws would come out, because a lot of times, and please listen to me on this, I've just been down this road before, hit these with penetrating oil and let it soak as long as you can before you go and take on this project, because these screws are a pain in the butt, and if they break off or round off or whatever, you have to worry about damaging this MAF sensor, and these are not cheap. So here's a look at how it's going to set in here. Kind of angles up and then down, but we're going to be putting a nut on, if I can get it to focus, right there. Nut's going to be going on right there. We'll tighten up this band clamp up here and then probably put this up in the air so that we can get the filter put on it. All right, guys, so we've got the car up in the air now, and I've got to remove the inner fender liner. There's some screws on the bottom side I have to take out, and then we should be able to pull this guy back some to where we can get our cold air intake filter on and go from there. All right, guys, so we've got our inner fender liner all pulled back and removed. So now we can go ahead and put our cold air intake filter on. Our pipe is right here, so we'll go ahead and get this up on there. This fog light cover we can pop out, and I'll probably order, it's called a hydro shield. So it's this sleeve that goes around the filter to where if you run through a puddle or anything like that, you don't hydrolock the motor from it sucking water up. So, but yeah, this should be like a wonderful spot to have a nice big cold air intake. We've got our fog light cover popped out, so now what I can do is actually, I didn't even think of this until we saw it down here. We can take and drill this, or cut the big circle out, pop this back into where it looks stock. But what that'll do is allow air to come in through here. The inner fender liner shield will keep that cold air right in there and let it get sucked up right by the motor. So that is fantastic. All right, guys, so the last step is just to plug in our MAF sensor. I think we're ready to start it, other than this pipe here, which will cause a vacuum leak, which I probably should address first. And I got one other pipe that just goes to the brake booster. So I guess I'll run to the parts store real quick. Not even having to go to the parts store. Found some hose that will work for this, and then also one for our vacuum line that goes to our brake booster. So I went ahead and put the hood latch back on, just 3 10mm bolts. I believe everything is buttoned up minus the PCV, which that's not the end of the world. We're going to leave that undone for the time being, and we'll get some different hose for that to route to our catch can. So I think we can start this and see how it sounds. Alright, so I'm expecting this to probably hunt for an idle, because it's going to have to relearn since we put a new throttle body on it, but let's see if it even fires. Okay, that's good. That's really good. Kind of surprised at the moment we're not hunting for an idle, but we'll see how that goes. It's idling about where it should be, so that makes me feel good on the idle screw where I had it input at. Let it sit here and idle for a minute so it can relearn, but check real quick for any type of vacuum leaks or anything. No hissing or anything like that. We got this, but not that big of a deal. So yeah, overall very happy. We'll see how she turns out when we actually drive it. So I've let the Yaris idle for a couple minutes and gonna give it a little bit of gas, see how she sounds. Throttle response is pretty good. It's actually really good. And it comes right back down to idle like it. So overall, I'm very, very happy with this. With that being said, I'm going to end the video here. Huge shout out, obviously, to FTG Tuning and also to Fumoto for the oil drain valve. All of their information is right down in the description down below. If you are wanting to build a Yaris of your own and need tuning done, contact FTG Tuning. And if you're just wanting to even put an oil drain valve on your car, even if it's not a Yaris, contact Fumoto. They sell them for all different types of vehicles. So, anywho, we're going to end it here. Thanks so much for watching. Good luck on your projects and have a great day.